To understand and to understand. Are these then two different things? Certainly. Okay, question I have today I stole from Soren Kierkegaard. And no, that's not how you pronounce his name, but whatever. So I'm going to read some of this paragraph. We'll go from there. So, where was I? Oh. It is enough to drive one to both laughter and tears to see how all this knowledge and understanding exercises no influence at all on people's lives, and bears not the remotest relation to what they have indeed understood, but rather the direct opposite. The spectacle of this no less pathetic than ridiculous display causes one involuntarily to exclaim, "But how in the world can they have understood it? Can it really be true that they have?" To this the old ironist and ethicist, I think by old ironist and ethicist he means Socrates, but I don't know, replies, "Don't ever believe it, dear friend. They have not understood it, for if truly they had, then they would express it in their lives too. They would have practiced what they understood." Okay, so here's the thing. He's saying that you can understand something, meaning all this abstract or intellectual understanding of what something means, but if you don't actually live that way, or if you do not live in that understanding, then you haven't really understood it. So is to understand something intellectually and to understand it two different things. And if so, what does that second understand mean? So, what I think about this is that I think that understanding in a deeper sense has to be neither an intellectual phenomenon nor strictly an emotional phenomenon, but it has to be a kind of phenomenon that happens inside of you where you actually really grasp something. Because when something is really grasped, not just in understanding or an emotional response to it, then I think it does affect how you live. But if you only intellectually understand it, it's ironic, as Soren Kierkegaard talks about, that your life doesn't reflect that. You say you understand something, but how can you actually understand it if you don't actually live that way? I think that a lack of living in the understanding that we have does show a lack of true understanding of what that thing really is. So, what this makes me think about is that knowledge itself and an intellectual pursuit of the truth isn't, in essence, worth having on its own. Because an intellectual pursuit of the truth won't necessarily, it can, but it won't necessarily force you to realize or bring you to a true understanding of something that actually makes a real impact in your life. Because the whole business of being human is learning how, not learning, but becoming holy and becoming perfect and whole human beings. And that wholeness comes from a real grasp and understanding of the way we really are and the way God really is and how things ought to be, and faith in God. That's another thing, that faith in God is a kind of understanding. It's a kind of grasping understanding that transcends an emotional phenomenon or strictly intellectual phenomenon of realizing God's grace or anything like that, but a grasping that I don't really know how to describe, but I feel like I know it's I feel like I know it's real. So, what was I saying? Yes, that purely intellectual pursuit of truth or of knowledge won't make you a good human being or has no intrinsic worth on its own beyond aiding that deeper grasping and understanding of something. So, to understand and to understand are two different things. To understand intellectually is good, it is worthwhile, but I don't know if it is intrinsically worthwhile, or if it aids in a pragmatic way of furthering a real understanding that incites to action, and that understanding itself is, by necessity, a kind of action, or will provoke a kind of action.